My name is Grace Helmer. This is my 4th year in the Life Design Lab, and I'm so excited to introduce you to my fellow classmates and their truly remarkable work. Each year, a group of students enter the lab and begin learning about the design thinking process, life design, and purpose pursuit. Once they have been exposed to these concepts, each student creates a project that they work on for the rest of the year. We present these projects at Exhibition Night, a school-wide celebration of student work. After that event is finished, students in the Life Design Lab continue working on their projects, but shift their focus towards their learning, which brings us to tonight. Life Design Night is all about our students presenting their learning. You will experience the presentations of learning from 10 of our students shortly, as they represent a wide range of grade levels, project types, and experiences. Additionally, we will be premiering the digital POLs of all of our students on the MHS Life Design Lab YouTube channel. Our first keynote of the night will be presented by Lizzie Archuleta.
Thank you so much for coming tonight. For those of you who may not know me yet, my name is Lizzie Archuleta, and I'm a sophomore here at Morristown High School. Today, I'm so excited to share with you all a project that I have been working on all year that I have titled Hearts in Motion. Pretty much anyone who knows me, whether it's friends, family, or teachers, knows that I've dreamed about being a doctor for as long as I can remember. It's not just a career goal to me, it's something I felt like I've always been meant to do. But they also know that there's another family in my life, not connected by blood, but through something stronger. Love, shared hope, and hardships. When I was 6 years old, someone very important in my life, someone who felt like my family, got really sick. I didn't understand everything at the time, but I understood enough. I saw fear in the eyes of people I trusted. I saw strength in times where there shouldn't have been any left. I saw how fragile life could be. Watching what cancer did to them at especially such a young age was heartbreaking. There were nights when I cried and I didn't quite understand why, and days when I asked questions that no one could fully answer. But in the midst of all that pain, something happened inside of me. It was like a spark caught fire, a deep, aching desire to help people and to heal them if I could. That moment didn't just pass, it became a part of me. Now it's been nearly a decade later, and I'm still that little girl, but different in many ways. I've grown. I've studied harder, listened more deeply, and tried to understand what it truly means to help people in their most vulnerable moments. That experience gave me more than just a dream. It gave me a mission to become the kind of doctor that not only helps people, but brings comfort, compassion, and strength when it is needed most. This is Hedda, who is the inspiration for this project. Where did this idea come from? When it came time for us to choose our projects in the Life Design Lab, I already knew I wanted to do something in the healthcare field and something to help children. I'm a multi-sport athlete, and I love running, walking, and moving my body. So I thought, why not combine these two passions? I wanted to create an event that was not only fun, but engaging and could get the entire community involved. Something that would bring people together and ultimately make a difference. That's where Hearts in Motion, a walkathon fundraiser, was born. Now that I had an idea, the next big step was finding the right cause to support. I thought I'd maybe do something in cancer, given my personal history, but it's still kind of a really tough subject for me, and I didn't think I was emotionally ready to take that on. So I started looking at other local organizations in the area, a lot of them, and I hit a lot of dead ends. Some didn't respond, and others didn't really take me seriously, and it honestly started to get really discouraging. But around that time, I started taking biology this year, and we were learning about the cardiovascular system, and I found it so interesting. It just seemed so cool, and I thought, maybe I should look into organizations that work with heart health instead. So I widened my search just beyond local options and kept going. And that's when I found HeartWorks. From our very first meeting, I could tell that they were different. They didn't just listen. They took me seriously, and they were so excited about my idea, and they were able to give me real support and feedback, which is not something I'd gotten before. HeartWorks focuses on research and developing cures for congenital heart attacks, and it felt like the perfect fit. The little spark that I had inside, it started to burn even brighter. Over the next few weeks, we exchanged many emails, phone calls, and we started to just build the foundation for our fundraiser. One of the first big tasks we took on was creating a website where people could donate and live and learn about the event. Here are just some screenshots from it. I had no idea how much work goes into it. It was so much more complicated than I expected. There were so many tiny little details that I had to think about, but little by little, we figured it out, and we had a real working campaign site. If you had seen me at the start of the school year, I stayed at my seat, kept my head down, and just worked most of the time. I rarely asked for help, not because I didn't need it, but because I always grew up thinking I had to do everything on my own. But this project taught me differently. I learned that asking for help isn't a weakness. It is actually a strength. Now, if you walk into my classroom, you'll probably catch me talking with friends, asking my teachers help, and getting feedback from anyone. Always looking for ways to improve. Here is some screenshots from the fundraising on our website. We started at the beginning of 2025. At first, it was actually really slow. I started an Instagram account and posted every single day, encouraging people to donate and sign up for it. At first, most of the attention came from kids my own age, and most of them don't have money to donate, and the parents just kind of overlooked it. So I asked my parents for help, and we began spreading the message not only across my personal social media, but theirs as well. And slowly, the donations started to trickle in. What really boosted my confidence was getting our first big donation, and then a floodgate just opened. It wasn't easy, but once the fundraising started to pick up speed, I turned my focus to the actual event. There were days where I had so many different documents to fill out because it's a really complicated process, and reading them felt like trying to understand a whole new language. I can't tell you how many times I sat in Mr. Daly's class so frustrated and complaining that I just didn't get it. I made calls to the town office every day and asked so many different questions, and eventually, after a lot of paperwork and a little bit of tears, it was finally approved. I can't even describe how happy I was that my hard work had been paid off. Hearts in Motion officially took place on April 5th, 2025. My original fundraising goal was $1,000, and not only did we meet it, we exceeded it, raising almost $2,500. It was beyond anything I had expected. Sure, the event was a little smaller than we expected, but looking back, I wouldn't change anything. I was surrounded by the people I love most, getting to celebrate some of what I had worked so hard on over the last few years. This project started as such a small, simple idea, just a little spark, and it turned into something so much bigger and so much cooler than I could ever imagined. It challenged me, it pushed me out of my comfort zone, and it helped me grow in ways I never expected. I learned how to lead, how to speak clearly, how to keep going when things got hard, and just as importantly, how to ask for help. I used to think being independent meant doing everything on my own. But now this experience showed me that real strength comes from knowing when to look to others for help. Feedback isn't something you fear. It's something that can help you grow and become a better person. If you want to be taken seriously, especially as a young person, you need to be confident, speak clearly, and believe in your own ideas. Most of all, from this experience, I learned what hard work and persistence can do. Because age doesn't define what you're capable of. Passion and determination do. I am so grateful to Mr. Daly and Mr. Madden for guiding me every step of the way. And a special thank you to my parents and everyone who supported, donated, or just believed in the mission of Hearts in Motion. Because in the end, it wasn't about raising money, which that's pretty nice, but it was about coming together as a community. And together, we truly made a heartwarming impact. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Alexa Armenti. I'm a freshman at Morristown High School and a first-year student in the Life Design program. When I first heard about this class, I was immediately interested because of the freedom I would have assumed it would be easy. While it might be easy for some, I quickly realized there was so much more to the class in the program, and little did I know how much I would learn ahead. As Mr. Daly and Mr. Madden explained the material and the freedom provided, I felt both excited and confused. While I enjoyed the first thought of complete freedom, having no structured guidelines made me nervous. I've always been someone who relies on a rubric, checking off each step to make sure I met the criteria. Knowing this was a project where the rubric depended on the work I had done wasn't something that settled well with me. Without that structure, I struggled to come up with a project that had a clear purpose behind it and was meaningful to me. I also had a bad habit of procrastination, and I thought I could push this project aside. But as time passed, I realized I couldn't avoid it all year, so I needed to change my mindset. The first idea that came to mind when planning a meaningful project was something regarding mental health. I've always wished the Moore School District did more to recognize students' mental health, as I felt it was never really addressed through my years in the district. I would always skip a couple days of school, just needing time to relax. However, other parents didn't always allow their kids to take that time, so figuring something out that allows students to be given that break was crucial to my plan. I was hesitant about making mental health the base of my project because I constantly worried what others would think. I felt like I needed approval, and choosing it as my topic felt both unsettling, but it was something that meant a lot to me. Seeing past students' project intimidated me because I always heard the positive impacts they had on others. After a lot of overthinking and procrastination, I decided on looking to do a mental health day. Right away, I knew this was a big commitment. The standards I set for myself were high, and I understood that I needed to get started immediately. As the first class presentation approached, I began putting together the foundation of my project, and having some structure finally gave me a sense of reassurance, which felt like an accomplishment. After spending time refining my idea, I scheduled a meeting with Mr. Bauergant, the freshman class principal, to get his thoughts on what I had in mind. He immediately told me the project was too ambitious, and surprisingly, I felt relieved. I had set myself up for failure by trying to organize such a large event, and taking a step back allowed me to get the bigger picture of my idea. It allowed me to reflect back on the rubric I had set for myself, and allowed me to adjust to a more realistic mindset for my project. After a few meetings together, he suggested an extended homeroom schedule, a 30-minute period between first and second block that would slightly shorten class periods to the day. This idea felt much more achievable, and finally, I began making real progress instead of just stressing and putting it aside. I sent multiple emails to administrators, but rather than receiving constructive feedback, I often felt like I was just being told what to do with my project. I was frustrated and didn't realize how many challenges I would face along the way. I was so relieved of all the ambition going on, but in a way, it felt more stressful when I was being told what to do. This allowed me to recognize that I needed a better way to organize my thoughts. I started a Google Doc to document every idea, piece of feedback, and next step that I would think of. It started by jotting down the first thing that came to mind. My ideas were all over the place, and there was no definite structure. As the project progressed through meetings and new ideas, the document started to become more structured and organized. This helped me figure out my direction and build a concrete plan for my final proposal to Mr. Manning, the principal of Morristown High School. The meeting went well, but it also made me realize there were still many logistical challenges to work through. I still had the expectation that my project needed to stand out, just like the other ones I'd seen before. With that in mind, I kept pushing myself to make it as meaningful to students as possible, attending more meetings and continuing to seek approval from administrators. I have also created a Google form that will be sent out to the students of Morristown High School, where they will be able to choose the activities they would enjoy best, as well as a poster that shows different activities being held during the homeroom period. Making these activities required lots of overthinking due to me being unsure of how engaging they would be for all 4 grades. With lots of moving parts still going on, I am at the stage of scheduling a time where my homeroom schedule will take place. Not knowing how much planning truly went into this finally resonated with me. I have tried multiple times to plan a final date, but administrators constantly tried to push back the day due to testing and too much going on during the weeks planned. Looking back, I realized the true success of my project wasn't just about the final outcome, it was about the growth I experienced along the way. One of the biggest lessons I learned was how important structure is for me. Without clear steps and organization, I felt overwhelmed and struggled to stay focused. Early on, I procrastinated, thinking I had more time than I actually did. But I quickly learned that taking action, even small steps, makes everything feel more achievable. Waiting only made the project feel heavier and more stressful. Another important lesson was learning how to adjust big goals. At first, I aimed to create a full mental health day, but after meeting with administrators, I realized that scaling down to an extended homeroom didn't make the project less meaningful, but more realistic and achievable. This taught me that changing my plan wasn't failure, it was smart problem solving. I also grew more independent through this process. At first, I constantly worried about seeking approval from others, especially administrators. But over time, I learned that while feedback is helpful, I don't need everyone's permission to make a positive impact. Trusting my own ideas became an important part of my growth. Most importantly, I saw how powerful even small steps can be when it comes to raising mental health awareness. A simple extended homeroom can show students that their well-being matters, and changes like that can start bigger conversations. This experience pushed me out of my comfort zone, taught me how to stay organized, helped me build confidence, and showed me that meaningful change often starts with taking a first brave step. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jocelyn Fox, and I'm a freshman in the Life Design program here at MHF. When I chose to take this class at the end of 8th grade, I had no idea what it was. I was a little bit hesitant to take the class because I thought that if I signed up for it, I would be stuck in the Life Design program for 4 years, and I didn't even know what it was. This was a little bit nerve-wracking, but my guidance counselor assured me that I was able to drop it after, or even at the beginning of my freshman year if the class was not right for me. I decided to go for it and choose Life Design as one of my electives, since I thought the class sounded cool and my mom told me it was a good class to take. Looking back, I'm glad that I decided to take the class because it has taught me a lot about myself, and I've learned new skills that I didn't expect to. When the year started, I still did not fully understand what this class was. When I learned that I had the option to choose any project to do, I was overwhelmed because I had no idea what my project was going to be. Like many other people, especially in my classes, I like to be told what to do and how to do it, and this class was definitely not going to be like that. Even though this class was very different, I decided to stay with it and try to decide on what type of project to do. My two main choices for my project was making a cookbook full of dessert recipes and learning how to play the guitar. They were both very simple projects, and I didn't know which one I wanted to do, and I had no preference until I had a conference with Mr. Daly and Mr. Madden. They were interested in the specifics of my dessert recipe book, so I decided to choose that as my project. I also enjoy baking a lot, so I thought that it would be fun to make a project out of something I enjoy doing already. What makes my project different from any other recipe book is that it's kind of an experimental project. Basically, what I do is I will find a recipe online or from a recipe book of whatever dessert I feel like making. I will make that recipe once, and usually it does turn out good, since it's a professional recipe, but there is always at least one thing that I think needs tweaking. I will also get my family to try out my desserts and tell me what they think is wrong with them. When I figure out what needs fixing in the recipe, I remake the recipe with whatever tweaks I decided on. And sometimes I will make a recipe multiple times before I think that it is good enough to put into my book. I wait until my recipes are exactly how I like them, because I handwrite everything in my book, and I do not want to have to rewrite a recipe because it takes a long time to write. Here's a few pictures of my book. These are a few of my favorite pages, not just based on the dessert, but I think that they look the most appealing. You can see that on each page I have the name of the recipe, a picture, the ingredients, and the actual recipe. I honestly didn't expect to learn as much from this class or from my project that I've learned this year. At the beginning of the year, or at the start of my project, I was very eager to start baking and adding recipes to my book, but I didn't realize how much time outside of the class that my project would take. As I just said, I was very motivated to get started, and the first few months of my project went very well. but towards the middle of the year, I started to get flashes of motivation. I'd be so excited to bake sometimes, and other times I would think of baking as homework. And even though Mr. and Bailey told us not to think of it like that, I started to dread baking. I think that my main reason for thinking of baking this way is because I had so much homework piling up and no free time to bake. Since I usually only baked whenever I had time, it felt as if baking was something I had to do rather than something I chose to do. It was a struggle to stay motivated to keep up with baking, especially since it was something that I was not able to do in class. I also struggled to find time to bake. And as somebody who does a lot of extracurricular activities, such as sports and volunteering, my only time to really bake was on the weekends when I wanted to be spending time with my friends and family. This may sound weird, as baking is usually a communal activity in the sense of baking with people or giving people my desserts to try, but I like to be alone when I bake, especially when I'm baking something for my project. I started to dread baking, which was something I loved doing during my free time before the start of this project. My first mistake was doing absolutely nothing during class. I couldn't bake in class and really have the option of working on that aspect of my project, and I guess I didn't feel like doing my homework. My recipes also weren't developed enough for me to bake during class or write them in my book. I would spend most of class talking to my friends or playing games. As the year went on, I realized that doing my homework for other classes during my life design block would allow me more time to bake at home. Once I started to do this, my motivation and passion for baking came back because I didn't have to spend all of my free time doing it. And once I finally started finalizing my recipes, I was able to use class time to write those down in my book. In about February, when I was finally starting to get back on track again, I was making brownies for my family. My book was lying on the counter because I was using my brownie recipe from it, and I spilled brownie batter all over it. I didn't have much done at that point, since my recipes were still developing, but everything I did have was ruined. I definitely learned a lot from that mistake, and now I'm much more organized and careful around my book. As Mr. Daly suggested at the beginning of the year, I have a digital copy of my recipe book. Before I write recipes in my book, I add them onto a Google slide. Here on the slide is what my digital copy looks like. Similarly to my book, you can see it has a picture of the recipe, the name of the recipe, the ingredients, and the recipe. It's very simple and easy to follow. After finally getting back into baking, I was much better at managing my time. This new way of balancing my time was so different and a little difficult for me to get used to. I was so used to my schedule being mainly planned out for me, such as my sports schedules being planned by my coaches and my doctor's appointments being booked by my mom. I was usually told exactly what was happening and when, but now I had a whole new section of my life that I had to figure out by myself. My main goal was to bake 3 times a week whenever my schedule allowed, but eventually I had a not exactly planned schedule that I would usually end up baking on Tuesdays, Fridays, and Sundays. This is what worked around my schedule, so it became almost a routine, with the exception of a few appointments or family gatherings planned by my mom. Otherwise, my family knew that on these days I was in my baking world, and that's what I would be doing. I learned a lot of skills beyond baking while completing this project, which was unexpected but still just as valuable. Testing, changing, and perfecting recipes requires a lot of patience and determination. As I said, there were times when I had to remake a recipe 3 or 4 times before it finally turned out the way I liked it. Even when I was frustrated by little mistakes, I had to be patient and keep changing the recipes until they were perfected. This ability to stay determined, even when my recipes didn't work out perfectly the first time, has helped me in other areas of my life. For example, during track practices, I've noticed that I'm better at finishing a tough workout instead of giving up, even when I feel like I can't do it anymore. Lastly, this project has improved my ability to pay attention to small details. Baking is very precise, and even adding an extra teaspoon of baking soda can ruin an entire recipe. I have become much better at following instructions and double-checking whatever I'm doing, whether it is measuring a baking ingredient or writing my English essay. For example, I've noticed I've started to proofread my work more often and more thoroughly to check for spelling or grammar mistakes. Overall, I am very happy with my project. First, I'm glad that I finished my book, even with the setbacks that occurred. Even though these setbacks were hard at the moment, they taught me a lot and helped improve my project overall. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Lucy Delatush, and I'm a sophomore here at Morristown High School. My life design project this year was student-athlete mental health and learning how to take a deep breath. I have been very involved in sports growing up. At Morristown High School, I'm a member of the varsity field hockey, swimming, and lacrosse teams. Along with athletics, academics is a huge part of my life, and I push myself to take challenging courses. When I entered the life design program and we were given the option of choosing our own project topic, I immediately knew I wanted my project to revolve around student athletes, and I knew I also wanted to include mental health, which is a topic I'm very passionate about. My Aunt Allison was one of the happiest women I've ever known. Her smile lit up every room she walked into, and she brought great joy to my family. After giving birth to her fourth child, my aunt struggled with postpartum depression. This led to her having issues with alcohol, and she ended up passing away due to liver failure. Mental health has been a very important topic for me ever since. While mental health is becoming an increasingly important matter to discuss, I still felt like many people, including myself, were afraid to reach out for help out of the fear of being judged by peers. I noticed this happening all around me, particularly classmates and teammates feeling burnt out and overwhelmed with anxiety from school and sports. My idea was to bring awareness and solutions to the students struggling with handling the school side of being a student athlete. This is really important to me because trying to juggle school and sports all while navigating life as a teenager is a challenge and can be very overwhelming. To start my project, I interviewed different student athletes at Kira MHS, ranging from freshmen to juniors and ranging in sports, genders, and varsity, JV, and freshman levels. The biggest takeaway from the interviews was that the most beneficial thing for student athletes to promote mental health would be extra time in school to complete homework. I had a meeting with the athletic directors and joined the Morristown Athletic Association, a new club at Morristown meant for advocating for athletics and student athletes. When meeting with the athletic directors, I proposed the possibility of an extra marking period of PE opt-out for athletes at Morristown to have more time to complete assignments while in season. In order to make this happen, my idea was to have the opportunity to take health as an online course during the summer to free up space to take PE opt-out for 3 marking periods instead of 2. This project resonated with me more when I found myself in situations doing homework in other classes, specifically my life design class, doing homework instead of completing my project. I found myself in a constant loop of trying to complete homework during classes instead of being able to stay in the present during class, because after school my schedule was packed with sports. I was struggling to keep up with my rigorous academic classes during the sports season and was nearing burnout from never being able to take a break or having a chance to breathe and relax. This really hit me how beneficial it would be for student athletes to be given more time to complete homework. After the meeting, I felt as though my project was being brushed off. They had questioned the participation levels in the extra marking period of opt-out, which I felt was a way of shutting my project down. I was angered as I thought to myself, who wouldn't take advantage of this opportunity? Although student athletes and mental health are said to be prioritized at the high school, it was interesting to me that nobody wanted to go out of their way or do extra work to create positive change in the school. I was left very stressed as I didn't know what to do next. Having these highly respected adults brush my project off scared me to reach out again. I had been taught that adults were always in the right, and as children we needed to comply. I felt like I was falling behind in class and wasn't making the progress I wanted to in promoting student-athlete mental health. Presenting my project at feedback, critique, and exhibition night was challenging for me when my project wasn't fully finished. The point of the presentation nights was to show off your progress. However, it had been installed in my head that when I present something, it needs to be finished and perfect. Taking life design and becoming comfortable with not having a finished product helped me take away that I don't need to always be perfect. I have always been a perfectionist. Whether it be in athletics or academic, I strive for perfection, and if I didn't achieve it, I'd be very upset with myself. This year, life design taught me the value of not always being perfect, and specifically for me, this meant asking for help. On Tuesday, November 26th, my best friend Avery had picked me up from swim practice to hang out as we always do. After stopping at Michael's to pick up supplies for Avery's anatomy project, we were hit by an intoxicated driver at 5:17 p.m. The car crash left me in shock, thinking about possible outcomes if things had happened differently. It was a major setback for me, and as I was left with a concussion, but it also stemmed severe anxiety that I didn't know how to manage. Being someone who always wanted to be seen as perfect, it was hard for me to switch gears and ask for help. Going through the life design class and being pushed outside my comfort zone to not always be perfect put many things in perspective for me. I gained the confidence to start going to therapy and started to let my friends know about what I was going through. While I am a Morgan's Message Ambassador, an organization promoting mental health for athletics, I advocated the message that it's okay to not be okay. However, I struggled to apply this into my own life due to my perfectionism. Before this class, I would have never wanted to talk about my imperfections, and especially to my classmates, peers, or in front of an audience. The life design class has pushed me out of my comfort zone and made me more comfortable with imperfection. This class has also been an inspiration for me, not just to manage my perfectionism, but has also allowed me to take away my needs as an individual. So much of my time in a day is spent doing athletics, academics, and helping others, I had lost the meaning of self-importance and self-care. Taking life design opened up a new perspective to me, that life isn't just all about getting good grades and getting into college. For me, this meant having the opportunity to create a real-life project that had personal meaning without being forced to follow a strict curriculum. While working on my project, I noticed that I was so zoomed in on creating benefits for others' mental health. However, I realized I needed to prioritize mine first. While I had intended my project to be benefiting other student athletes, throughout the year I have learned that it's okay to prioritize myself first and ask for help if you need it. After recognizing this, putting work in at therapy and changing my mindset has been very beneficial to me. I've been working on staying in the present instead of stressing about things that are out of my control or in the future. One of my favorite activities that I do to relieve stress and stay in the moment is create little paper stars. While it may seem insignificant, each paper star I make reminds me to focus on just one star at a time instead of the whole galaxy. The life design class allowed me to get to where I am now, take a deep breath, and grasp that it's okay to not be perfect, and there's so much more to life than school and athletics. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Grace Sweeney. I'm a sophomore, and this is my first year in the life design program. When I first signed up for this class, I did not really know what it was, and took it mostly to fulfill my STEM credits. So when it came time to pick my project and find a purpose for it, it's safe to say I more than struggled with that. Mr. Daly and Mr. Madden really wanted us to do something that was important and that mattered to us. So when I thought about something or someone that was important to me, I immediately thought about my grandpa. My grandpa was one of my best friends, but passed away in 2018 after battling pancreatic cancer. This was not only difficult for him to go through, but for my whole family to watch. Throughout a lot of this time, and whenever it comes to mind, I always wish that I had someone that I could talk to that would really relate to what I was going through. As I sat in class thinking about this, it sparked an interest for my project. I initially decided that I wanted to do some sort of project that could be a support system for the family members of patients with pancreatic cancer, no matter what stage of the journey they're in. I began doing research on what types of support was already out there, and came to find that there were not very many options. The beginning half of my year was filled with strictly research to find out what was already out there and how I could be different. As I continued to try and find support for family members and continued to find nothing, I realized just how important making my project would actually be. I wanted my support system to reach the most amount of people that it could. This got me thinking about creating a website, only there was one problem. I don't know how to create a website. Through many conferences with Mr. Daly and Mr. Madden, they told me that if I came up with a structure and design for my website, I could most likely have a company or organization host it. This led me to contact the Lustgarten Foundation. The Lustgarten Foundation is a research-based organization that is trying to find a cure for pancreatic cancer. My family has talked with them before, and we've participated in a few of their walks in New York. As I reached out to them through many emails, phone calls, with lots of preparation for each, they agreed to show my design to their digital team once I got them a link for it. Now, my project did not run as smoothly as I may have just made it seem. I definitely had some struggles along the way. The first, and one of the main things that I struggled with, was my fear of talking to people that I didn't know. This was clearly shown through my freakouts to Mr. Daly before every phone call I had to make and every email that I had to write. Another problem along the way of creating my project was the miscommunication between me and a member of the Lustgarten team. While most of the time she was great, there was the occasional missed phone call or unanswered email. The final main issue I had in creating my project was my distractions in class. It was great having some of my friends in class. However, Mr. Daly and Mr. Madden are not standing over us, telling us what to do and when to do it, like in a normal classroom setting. This left us with a lot of time to talk and get work for other classes done. While I struggled more so with this in the beginning of the year, these distractions were not always easy to work through. However, it did help me navigate and improve my time management. I have learned to prioritize my homework, and I no longer stay up until midnight every day. Even though I did struggle with certain things, these struggles also helped me learn and grow. Out of all my struggles throughout the course of the year, my biggest challenge would definitely be my fear of public speaking. And I know what you all might be thinking. She's up on stage in front of all these people. She can't have a fear of public speaking. Well, to tell you the truth, I really don't want to be up here right now. As I said before, I really only took this class to fulfill my STEM credits, and I had no idea what I would have to do when I signed up for it. Now, before I continue talking about how this class has helped me with my public speaking skills, let me tell you a story about a few days before my sophomore year began. As I was sitting in my room, scrolling on Canvas to triple check that I had no homework that was supposed to be done, I came across a video of one of my friends on the homepage. I clicked on the video and found out that it was a collection of presentations from last year's Life Design Night. I immediately began to panic and texted my friend to see if everyone in the program had to do one of these presentations. She reassured me and told me that only a select few from each class would have to present on stage. I took these words and convinced myself that I would not be one of those select few on stage. If I would have known then that I would be on stage in front of an audience, I probably would have dropped this class. I hope that can give you some sort of idea of how much I hate doing presentations. Over the course of the year, we have multiple nights where we get feedback, show what we've done, and get to talk to people about our projects. Before the first of these 3 nights, I was thinking about my presentation all day and could not get myself to calm down. I got myself all worked up, yet when I actually started to present, I realized that there was nothing to be afraid of. Everyone was really supportive and really nice. As we had more of these presentations throughout the rest of the year, I began to realize that my anxiety surrounding these presentations was more in anticipation and silly made-up fears. I learned ways to better prepare myself for these nights, and they eventually became a lot easier. Learning how to better prepare myself for presentations has helped my public speaking not only in the Life Design program, but also in my other classes. Now don't get me wrong, presentations are still something I dread, and by no means do I enjoy them. However, they no longer cause me to have total breakdowns every time. This class and the Life Design program has helped me in more ways than one. Although I'm not done with my project, I'm going to continue to work hard on it because it is very important to me, and this class has helped me realize that. I'm excited to see what else I can learn with my project and throughout the rest of the year. Thank you.
Last year when choosing classes, my guidance counselor told me that taking this class is required to graduate in the STEM Academy. I agreed to take it based off of my friends saying that it's an easier class, and they didn't really do anything besides create a project on something they were passionate about. However, on the first day, the class was nothing like how it was described to me. The first few weeks of class, we were asked to brainstorm things that hold personal meaning to us in our lives and turn those into project ideas. I struggled with that because none of my ideas felt good enough, and I kept second-guessing myself. Even though it seemed like a simple exercise, it was tough for me because there was no clear example for me to follow. In most of my classes, it's pretty easy to figure out how to get a perfect grade. You follow instructions, listen to lectures, and complete assignments correctly. In this class, though, we are not assessed on that. We are evaluated based on how much effort we put in and how hard we work, which ties directly into how motivated we are. Figuring out what truly motivated me was the hardest part. I would see myself often having many conferences with my teachers, asking them questions like, is this the right way to do it? Or I need help because I don't know what matters to me. Throughout the conferences, they would ask me questions with me, which made me reflect on what really matters to me. I would think more deeply about myself and what I truly care about. I finally figured out a project idea that had the potential to impact me, my peers, and my school. In here, we are often reminded that this isn't a typical class where you're told what to do and how to do it. Instead, it's a space where we have the freedom to explore our own ideas and develop projects without a set structure. Now, this freedom made me really nervous. I'm the type of person to follow step-by-step directions to get the best possible grade. I've always approached school with the mindset that everything has to be done in a specific order to meet perfect expectations. I've been stuck in a cycle where I follow outlines, complete lessons, and turn little products for one huge grade at the end of the year. So when I was given the chance to create something entirely on my own, with no strict guidelines, I was sure that I wasn't going to be able to succeed. It was a really unfamiliar feeling, and stepping out of my comfort zone was definitely a challenge. So when we had to pick a project idea, I was stuck. I had smaller ideas like making baskets for shelters or having an open classroom for buyer lunches, but none of these really mattered to me or stuck with me. So I went to Mr. Daly and I told him my thoughts. He listened to me go on and on about how I'm just completely stuck, and he asked me the question, what is a major decision that you have to make in the next 6 months? My mind went blank because I was never thinking about my future or any of the decisions I have to make later. Although my response was if I was going to continue playing with fall sport at MHS next year. He asked me why and wanted me to dig deeper with my response. The 5-minute conversation, which was like a therapy session for me, made me realize that a key factor was a communication imbalance that I had been experiencing. There were times where I didn't want to go to practice because I felt mentally exhausted and felt like the toxic environment that I viewed made me want to quit. When I would open up to my friends, I would notice a pattern as well. This wasn't just happening to me. Poor communication between coaches and players was an issue across many teams. This realization led me to do some basic research on athlete retention at Morristown High School, and the number of 4-year athletes was alarmingly low. This discovery pushed me to dive deeper into the issue and explore ways to spark a meaningful change. The first steps that I've decided to take were getting different perspectives. I went into classrooms asking students across all grade levels, including members of freshman, JV, and varsity teams. I asked about their comfort levels inside their teams, their relationships with their coaches and teammates, and what they would want to change about their environment. The responses were overwhelmingly similar. The athletes felt too intimidated to speak up to their coaches about improvements. Then I brought all my insights from my interviews and my personal experiences to the athletic directors through a series of sit-down meetings. During one meeting, I learned that in January, the athletic directors made the decision to reintroduce since COVID the Morristown Athletic Association, or also the MAA. What the MAA includes is 2 athletes from each sport recommended by their coach to represent their teams, and they need to create agendas and plans, such as establishing an athlete of the week for spring sports or organizing a colonial day to boost attendance and participation. The overall goal is to give student athletes a voice beyond the field and build a stronger sense of community. After the meeting where I learned that this group was reintroduced, I immediately began drafting a project proposal. In it, I outlined my motivations, the issues I had identified, and some possible solutions. I sent the proposal to athletic directors, and they discussed it later in an MAA meeting. One of the most important lessons that I have learned this year is the value of my time management. Early on, I would often prioritize work from other classes over this one, and I kept putting off the next steps of my project because I wasn't sure what to do. I spent 3 months focused on interviews, but when critique night approached, I panicked. I rushed to schedule meetings with the athletic directors and missed a chance to present to the MAA because I hadn't completed my project proposal in time. As a result, I did come up short. Although I successfully brought awareness to the communication imbalance in MHS athletics, I have yet to find a concrete solution. Still though, this experience has taught me to be more proactive. Now I make an effort to plan ahead and take actions that will benefit me in the long run. For example, in other classes, I do try to get ahead on material so I can follow along more effectively during lectures. I also found myself getting ahead in history units by taking notes before they're assigned, so I'm more prepared. To keep up with a busy schedule, I focus on finishing my schoolwork and responsibilities at home before spending time on personal interests or hanging out with my friends. My growth as a student is also reflected in how much more engaged I've become. When we were shown this model in the beginning of the year, it was just another picture of me. Fortunately, my seat faced the wall where the model was displayed, so I saw it often and began to reflect on my own levels of engagement and the progress that I made. Now, in the past, I was a passive student. I followed instructions, completed my work on time, and stuck to the routine of a traditional classroom. But over this year, I experienced significant growth that shifted me towards a more active role in my learning. I started brainstorming my own ideas, tracking my progress during feedback nights, and using suggestions from my classmates and community members to set personal goals both in and out of school. This growth led me to realize that school has trained me to follow a strict routine, which makes it hard for me to adapt to a more real-world-like setting like this class. I had relied so much on clear instructions that even creating a simple slideshow like this one about my learnings felt one of the most difficult tasks that I was asked to do. This class pushed me to think independently, take creative risks, and take ownership of work that was uniquely mine. I had to step outside of the usual structure of school. In doing so, I developed skills that would benefit me far beyond the classroom. Since September to now, I've not only learned more about MHS athletics and my project, but I've also discovered how I respond in unfamiliar or challenging situations. I've become more confident in reaching out to new people and asking for help when I need it, along with smaller improvements like raising my hand more in class and advocating for myself in everyday situations. But it also pushed me far beyond that. Without this opportunity, I probably would not have spoken up about how I felt in a situation that had such a strong impact on me. As a freshman last fall, I would not voice my concerns or express a desire for change. I still haven't fully decided whether I'll continue playing a ball sport, but I do know that I've grown tremendously as a communicator. With everything that I've learned and how much I've improved, I can confidently say that life design has prepared me for success in so many ways. I'm excited to continue in the program and keep growing both in and out of school. Thank you.
Hi, good evening everyone. My name is Gavin Reyes, and today I'll be presenting my journey through my mastery of golf. So a little background about myself is before I embark on my journey is that I'm a junior here at Morristown High School. I'm a two-sport athlete as I played baseball and soccer for the high school, as well as outside of high school playing club soccer for STA. So I bet most of you are thinking right now, well, why did I pick to choose golf? As I don't play it for the school, and I'm still playing baseball inside of school. Well, it all started 2 Christmases ago with my dad buying me my first set of golf clubs. It was something that while he grew up, he played for his high school team, and he loved to do it as his family. So he wanted to bring it as a family tradition myself. So as you can see here in the picture, this is me and my brother playing. My brother is a sophomore in college, and so throughout summer, it is a time for me, my family, and my friends to spend quality time and have a great time. Before jumping into my project, I had 3 main goals in mind. First was to spend as little amount of money as possible. While I could have went out and I could have hired a personal trainer, and I definitely would have seen great improvement, I felt it as money buying my way through a challenge rather than me pushing myself to be the best as possible. The second goal that I had was consistency. Any athlete will tell you that talent only takes you so far. It's consistency that puts you on top. This is especially important in golf, as every shot that you hit during a round heavily impacts your final score. And my third goal was improving my handicap. A handicap is a way to level the playing field. It's a number that shows how many strokes over par you usually shoot. The better you get, the lower your handicap goes. So for instance, if you're a 10 handicap, you're shooting 10 strokes over par. So as you can see on the screen, before starting this project, my handicap was at a 14.9. Meaning I roughly shoot 15 strokes over par. By the end of my project, I set my target goal to lowering my score by 10 strokes and getting it to around a 5 handicap. So at the start of my project, I also filmed some videos of my own swing to get a baseline and see what needed changing. Unfortunately, in October of last year, I dislocated my shoulder while playing soccer for the school. This led to a lot of physical therapy and strength training first, just to come back to soccer, let alone try to swing a golf club. This caused a lot of downtime where I was unable to physically do anything to better my project. Next came the New Jersey winter, months which held me very limited in what I was actually able to accomplish. Two main things that I accomplished with this time was swinging into a net that I had set up in my living room, as well as watching YouTube videos to try and better my game. During the winter months and times where I was unable to physically practice my game, I relied heavily on YouTube videos to further my learnings and improve my game. One main way in which I did this was analyzing Tiger Woods' swing, someone who most of you may know. As I was analyzing his swing and many others, such as Bryson DeChambeau, because everyone plays a little bit differently and swings a golf club a little differently, I tried to incorporate some of the most important and recurring aspects into my own game. So as you can see in this video, I tried to, two main things that I tried to improve on was keeping my front foot down as long as possible and really bringing my weight from backwards to forward in one smooth motion rather than how I used to swing like a baseball player. So as you can see on the screen here, about 2 weeks ago I found my handicap again, which was a 9.1, a whole 6-point decrease. While it didn't quite meet my set goal of a 5 handicap, I'm still very proud of this accomplishment due to the severe limitations and unexpected challenges faced during this long process. The first lesson I learned is changing the way I approach challenges. I started seeing them as puzzles and opportunities to grow. Every time I hit a major setback like injury or unpredictability, it was feedback rather than a challenge. And that shift made all the difference in taking on challenges. Second, I became more proactive instead of reactive. It's easy to go through life reacting to what happens to you. It's harder, but much more rewarding to take control, to plan ahead, and to put yourself in the best position to succeed. In this project, it meant planning out my schedule weeks ahead of time and knowing how to best use every ounce of my time. And last and finally, not least, freedom can be dangerous. This is the most important goal that I had found throughout my project. While I'm finishing my junior year in high school, about to go into my senior year, I'm very close to thinking about colleges and where I want to go. College is a time where you have a lot of downtime, a lot of time where you need to plan out how to best utilize your time. And this class has really kind of shown me a little sneak peek on on how to best use that time. In closing remarks, mastery of golf wasn't just about golf. It was about mastering myself. It was about setting clear goals, pursuing them relentlessly, adjusting my mindset, and learning lessons that will stay with me for life. Thank you.
Hi everybody, my name is Maya Fonseca, and I'm a sophomore at Morristown High School. Today I'll be talking to you guys about my LDL project, which was a unified field day. To start, at the beginning of last year, I had joined the cheer team, and that gave me a season and something to do for both my fall and winter seasons. I had also joined lots of clubs, including the All-In Club, which is a club where special and non-special needs come together and eat lunch every Thursday just to get to know each other and hang out with each other. But then, as my winter cheer season had ended, I realized I had wanted to do something in the spring, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. I never really did any spring sports, so I was really only considering 3 to do at the high school. At first I thought about softball because a lot of my friends were doing it, but the only issue was I had never picked up a bat in my life, so that wasn't going to work. I also thought about golf, but you could say my skills weren't up to par, so also not a good option. And then my last option was track. The only issue was I never had real background in running rather than when I was playing soccer when I was younger. So I was kind of stuck on where I wanted to do until 2 of my friends came up to me and they said they were going to join the unified track team because their teacher was the coach of it. And I was very interested in what it was. And in case you don't know, Unified is when special and non-special needs kids participate together in various events all over the country. So I had ended up joining it with them, and so this is a picture of our team last year. Here you can see our whole team after we had completed a relay race during practice. You can see us holding up signs that say Unified because together is better. This is what really sparked my idea for my life design project this year. When thinking about what to do, I looked back at this picture and I thought about how much fun I had participating with kids, running around the track to try and find these signs to build out the sport. So when it came to picking my project, I ended up picking a unified field day that would kind of copy what I did during that practice. So the original plan was to have a huge unified field day, almost like a track meet, and have teams from all over Morris County to come to the high school on a Saturday and participate in a big event. But the biggest part of this event was that it wasn't going to be each team participating against each other like it usually is at various track meets. It was going to be the teams would be mixed together. So we would have Morristown and Mount Olive being on a team against Chatham and West Morris Central. That was the goal of the event, so that everyone can see what it's like working with different kids and getting to know different kids rather than just being put in the groups that they're always in. The only issue was, as I started pushing this idea out, really trying to get it out there, I was told I was never going to get all the unified teams in Morris County to come in. It was never going to happen. I was going to have to work around transportation. I was going to have to work around making sure the kids would be willing to come and are able to come. So since I wasn't able to have all the kids come in, it also means I wasn't going to be able to mix teams together with kids from different schools. So again, cut down another one of my big points for this event. And then I was told I was never going to be able to do a large event on the field because I would have to work around sports practices, and also I would have to work around making sure security was there to keep the field open. So then it also wasn't going to work again because I couldn't do a Saturday, again having to work around sports practices, making sure security was there, making sure someone was there to supervise the event, which wasn't going to happen because it was going to be too much to work around. So then I had to figure out, how can I rework this idea? How can I still get my major point across of having different people come in and experience what it's like to be on a unified team or part of the all-in club? So then it brought me to my second plan. So this plan was more cut down but still had the big idea of the event. This time it was only going to be Morristown High School students, and it was going to be after a half day of school. This way I could get people coming out of school to just come out on the turf, have fun, participate with these kids, and really get them to see what it's like to be a part of a unified or all-in club. And the biggest part of this event, after I was talking with a lot of people, was I had to get something to draw these kids in. Kids weren't just going to come in because they wanted to do more activities after they had their day of school. So I was told to get Beanie's Ice Cream to come in because I had been told they would love to donate, they love helping out. So I was able to talk to Beanie's and I was able to get them to donate ice cream to my event. The only issue was I couldn't do it after a half day of school. This is because I would have to work around testing, and then I would also have to work around, again, sports practices. I wasn't able to schedule something if sports were happening anywhere. So that cut down my idea again. So I had to think, how can I rework this idea again? Still getting the major point across of kids participating with one another to see what it's like to be a part of these unified teams. So finally, I got to my final idea, which was able to work. This final idea was to have all the kids in Morristown High School come together and participate on the field for a relay race event. I was able to schedule it for April 24th, which is a Thursday, which is perfect because it aligns right with All-In, because one of the big things about the All-In Unified programs that's kind of a joke is that Thursday is our day. So being able to get this event on a Thursday was also a major component to making it feel like an actual unified event or an All-In club event. And luckily, Beanie's was still willing to donate and help me out through this process, so I finally got all my boxes checked off, and I was able to finally start planning this event and pushing everything out. I was able to create this poster that I was able to hang up all around schools and post on social medias and even get some announcements on the morning announcements for it. As you can see, there was a lot happening on this poster, but the one thing that drew everyone's eyes to sign up was the Get Free Beanie's ice cream. This, I thought, was great at first because I was getting people to sign up. Everyone was super excited to come to the event, or so I thought. People were more excited about getting free ice cream rather than actually participating with the kids, which was the whole point of my event. So I was getting lots of kids to sign up. I was so excited. I had so many kids ready to participate until I started emailing out saying, hey, you signed up to volunteer. So excited to have you here. This is where I'll meet you. Or hey, you signed up to participate. So glad this is the team you're going to be on. And then I started getting no one responding to my emails, or I started getting emails back saying, I'm not doing this anymore, which was such a major setback for me because all these kids that had signed up, I was so excited. I told Beanie's how much ice cream I needed to feed these kids, and then they were just like, I'm not doing this anymore, completely dropped it. But thankfully, my friends were able to step up and really come and support me throughout this entire event. I had lots of my friends come in, join teams, help volunteer to run events, which was perfect for me because a lot of my friends, even though most of them are in the All-In club, a lot of them didn't know what it was like to work with the Unified Sports Program, which was really the major point of the event. So having my friends come in, join teams, really participate one-on-one with these kids was great for me because I was still getting my major point across of having people who weren't used to experiencing unified teams come in and join them. As you can see here, these are a couple pictures from our events. You can see our two teams. We had blue team up or pink team up top and blue team at the bottom, and then just some of our other events. And then in the middle at the bottom, you can see us handing out the beanies ice cream. But two major things I learned throughout this entire process was that not everyone was here to help, and you have to work with what you got. Not everyone was here to help came from the very beginning of my project. When pushing my ideas out, really trying to get everyone in, people weren't really liking my idea just because it was extra work for them. And I was not used to this because I was used to teachers always jumping up to help, being ready to help me. And then when I started trying to get my own idea across, get my own event across, they were all like, I'm not feeling this, I don't want to do it. And then I also learned how to work with what I got. So since people weren't really willing to help, weren't really willing to step up and help me out, I realized I had to work with what I got. I had to use my own things, reach out to my friends, really pull them all in to get everyone that I knew was going to be willing to help me in to help me, which was amazing. But in the end, we ran a super successful event. I had a bunch of friends there that really connected with the Unified program and were able to see what it's like to be a part of a unified sports team, which was the end goal of the event. So the event goal was met, and I ran a super successful event, which I was told that people wanted to come back in to do, and people actually want to start making this a yearly event, which was amazing for me to figure out. Thank you guys all for listening.
My name is Grace Hellman. This is my 4th year in the Life Design Lab, and I'm a senior here at Morristown High School. But my story begins long before I got here. Okay, not that long ago. Back in elementary school, my teachers often described me as strong-willed and imaginative. More often than not, those same qualities came across a little differently at home. More stubborn and distracted. I was constantly shifting from one big idea to the next. Specifically, I remember my summer going into 4th grade. I told everyone I knew that I owned a business. I was making wallets out of duct tape and giving them away for free at my summer camp. This business only lasted about a week until I realized I would have to keep buying rolls of tape without making any money in return. But this was normal. Most kids at that age cycle through interest quickly and eventually discover something they'll stick to for much longer than a week. What made me different was that I never stopped. I didn't grow out of that phase. I just got better at creating unrealistic expectations for myself just to lose momentum a couple weeks after I got it. This pattern followed me into high school and became especially apparent in the Life Design Lab. Over the past 4 years, I've had more project ideas than physical examples of the work I've done. I've filled notebooks, scheduled meetings, and ran with whatever idea came to mind at the beginning of the year, only to abandon it halfway through. Not because I didn't care, but because something new always seemed more exciting. Freshman year, I took interest in child psychology. I started researching the science behind most common childhood fears, such as darkness, monsters, loud noises, and so on. My plan was to write a series of bedtime stories, each designed to calm any nerves before bed through a clever but easy read. I was excited, as an anxious child myself, an anxious adult myself as well. It felt meaningful. And then, somewhere along the line, I got stuck. And instead of pushing through, I chucked that idea right out the window. Sophomore year, I had an idea I really thought I'd stick with, a journaling app called Moonbright. It would encourage students across the district to journal daily by offering simple prompts for beginners and more in-depth prompts for avid writers. I had everything from color palettes to feature menus planned out. I even met with a computer program who was willing to help me kickstart my project. But again, I moved on before anything could really take off. My junior year, I decided to focus on the future. I started researching majors, looking at colleges, and trying to pin down what exactly I wanted to do with my life. I hoped that maybe by zooming out, I would have an easier time identifying what really piqued my interest. I constantly spoke to Mr. Daly about how I just couldn't decide on one specific career. I wanted to do it all. Writing, acting, marketing, business. I figured it would be easy to plan out my life because I had so many options to choose from. Instead, I came to a terrifying conclusion. I was passionate about everything and committed to nothing. I realized that I don't know how to enjoy things casually. I couldn't just dabble in things. If I liked to draw, I wanted to be an illustrator. If I liked music, I wanted to be a Grammy Award-winning songwriter. If I had an idea, it had to be big. I wasn't interested in planting a seed unless I could grow an entire forest. And when that pressure became overwhelming, I'd walk away. Naturally, I spiraled a little bit. I started asking myself why I was so terrible at sticking to the things I cared about, yet I was the only student in my graduating class who had completed all 4 years of the Life Design Lab. In 2021, 19 freshmen joined the program with me. By sophomore year, about half of those students remained. Junior year, we were down to 4. And when I walked into the classroom this past September, it was just me. It became my mission to answer those burning questions I had and solve this mystery of a declining population of students who wanted to explore their passions. Suddenly, it became clear to me. When given the opportunity to explore interests or have someone tell you what you should be interested in, it's much easier to listen to someone else tell you as opposed to figuring it out for yourself. When given a time that is completely your own to use at school, it can be a challenge to think for yourself. What I've found is that life design isn't like any other class I've taken. It's not about grades or rubrics or turning assignments in on time. It's about thinking deeply, failing, reimagining, getting stuck, starting over, and learning how to value the process, even when there's no finished product at the end. That's something I never got from any math or English class. Life design has helped me reframe what success looks like. It's not always a finished app or printed storybook. Sometimes success is an idea that never made it out of the works but taught you something about how you view your day-to-day life. Mr. Daly has asked me every year to present my journey, and until this year I always declined the offer. I always worried that what I had wasn't enough to share, but I see now that the point was never to present a perfect end result. It was to reflect on the path I had taken to get me where I am today. What I tried, what I learned, and what I still don't have figured out. So today, I'm not here to show off a finished product. I'm here to share a story about a strong-willed and imaginative girl who has learned to appreciate the value in progress, not just completion. You have to keep showing up, curious, open, and willing to try again. Unfinished is not unimportant. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Tessa, and I am a junior in the Life Design Lab, and I really don't like school. And there are times when I even hate it. I've said this so many times to my parents, my friends, to myself when it's midnight and I still haven't finished my homework yet, that it has kind of lost its meaning. I don't like school. But the funny thing is, after a year of thinking about my future, I am strongly considering becoming a teacher. Ultimately, that's what I've been thinking about all year. Why do I look at school and all of my bad experiences there, and I'm still interested in going back to it? I didn't always feel this way. Going into my freshman year, I was excited for the new opportunities that high school would give me, and I wanted to get the best grades possible. But my working habits soon drained me. It was transactional. Work hard, get a good grade, promptly forget everything that I had just studied, repeat. I held on to this mindset so tightly that I treated my freshman year project, which was writing a novel, like a school assignment. Instead of focusing on improving my writing and reflecting on the process, I tried to finish the book as fast as possible without connecting it to my purpose. I was left dissatisfied, but newly inspired going into my sophomore year to try and make school meaningful for me. And, well, that didn't happen. In fact, the opposite. As I struggled with AP Seminar, honors chemistry, and even extracurriculars that I would normally enjoy, I started to deeply dislike school. I no longer cared about trying to be grateful for my education and make the most of it. The only thing motivating me to push through was the pressure to do well, and the knowledge that every day got me closer to graduation. So now it's junior year. Going into the program this year, I again had a clear idea of my project. I was going to make a creative writing club for kids in Morristown. I wanted to do this to benefit the community, share my love of creative writing with the kids, and invest in my future career by seeing if I liked teaching and might want to do that. Despite encountering some roadblocks that forced me to change my project into an in-school enrichment program at Thomas Jefferson Elementary, it was fairly easy to set up, and I was feeling great about it. But this time around, unlike my freshman year, I actually started valuing my learning. And it started in a very unexpected place, somewhere that was actually outside of my project and the Life Design Lab as a whole, math class. I had taken a quiz, which I didn't study for, and got my grade back, which was a 65%. I am not a math person, and for the past few years I have internalized this idea and stopped trying to improve. Anyway, when I got back this quiz, I was disappointed in myself as usual, thinking about how it would affect my grade. Even worse, it was a formative assignment, meaning that I couldn't retake it. However, when I sat down with my teacher to talk about it, she helped me learn the concepts and fix everything I had done wrong. Now, I had done corrections on tests like this in the past, but this one really made me think, thanks to some of the research I had done about teaching in preparation for my project, and some conversations I had about the school system with Mr. Daly. My grade on this quiz wasn't changing, but I felt more confident in my knowledge on the subject now that I had gone over it. From an outsider's perspective, I had done very poorly. But in reality, correcting this quiz helped me truly understand the material. So how does this all relate to my project? Well, this moment in math class really got me thinking about the differences between schooling and learning. The best way that I could explain this is that learning is when you feel like you are truly absorbing the information, and that it is helping you change or grow in some way. While schooling is, well, all the extra pressure and imposed learning that happens in the school system. There's a quote that I often see on posters in my classes. Learning is something that you do, not something that is done to you. Coasting through math class and making up my mind about being bad at math was an effective schooling, but the corrections I made to my math test was learning. In the group of elementary schoolers that I have been teaching in my enrichment class, I can feel their excitement around learning. All of them signed up to be in the program, which means that it is something that they are truly interested in. Because of this, I have seen them create elaborate plot diagrams, characters, and unique stories that are full of each of their own personalities. Everything from meticulously planned fantasy, to stories about cats who play baseball, to realistic fiction about kids their age dealing with real problems. After seeing this overflow of creativity and learning, I can't help but compare it to my everyday education experience, where I almost always feel like I'm being schooled. As students get older, why does learning become a means to an end instead of being valued for the growth and change that it causes in a person? The advanced classes I take, the electives, even the clubs I'm involved in are often boiled down to good for college when I talk about them with other adults in my life. Getting into college is very important, of course, and something that I definitely want to pursue, but the attitudes around the whole process often make me uncomfortable. My activities become transactional. Do this, get into college, get a good job, and only then can you get a good, meaningful life. After the events of the past year or so, I have realized something about myself. I cannot continue to work with the mindset that I have to suffer now for a good life in the future. I can't keep pushing back the meaningful things I want to do now that I know will be valuable learning experiences. Again, getting good grades and building a good list of accomplishments and activities to get into college is important, but so is valuing your growth as a person. Many of the greatest lessons I have learned in my life so far were a result of things completely unrelated to school. Education is supposed to be preparing us for life, but I often feel like it does very little. Sometimes I even feel like the strong focus on making myself look as good as possible in preparation for my future is dimming the progression of my own inner life and creativity. I don't always want to focus so much on the future, getting into college, and feeling like my life right now is a preamble to whatever happens later. I want to feel more grounded in the present. After doing this project and becoming very interested in the education system, I am even more motivated to explore these ideas of empathy and meaningful learning, possibly as a career. But for now, I will continue to develop my projects for next year, and I will try to focus more on the growth of my own knowledge and character. I might not be able to make school align more with my purpose as I hope to do my freshman year, but I can still realize that I do not have to define my projects, classes, and extracurriculars simply as helping me with my future or as good for applications. I do not have to wait until graduation or after college or even for my career to start doing purposeful things. That can start now. Thank you.
This concludes our program. The Life Design students would like to thank you for your support. Without participation from the community, none of our projects could have reached their full potential.
Additionally, Life Design Lab would like to thank Adam Cassidy-Ball for running the soundboard and lights, and the custodial staff here at MHS for all the amazing work that they do. Thank you and good night.